How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good. Happy Monday. It's a sunny Monday here in Columbus, finally.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll take it. I I am very grateful for these days when we get them. And we've got an interesting topic today. We're going to talk about what stage is your business in today. So, before we get started, just wanted to invite people to let us know they're on with us. If you're here with us live, please type in the chat and let us know that you're here. We're always open to any questions you have for us and would love to hear those. Whether you have a question as we get started or as we're talking about something, it's always important for us to um, know that we're talking about what it is that you have your questions about so that we're, going down the right road because we can go down a lot of roads, can't we, Jeff?
That we can. There's a
Yeah.
lot of different paths we could take this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really true. And we want to make sure that we're speaking to what the topics and questions are that our audience is dealing with. So, talking about stages of business, I'm going to just flip an illustration up on the screen for a minute, which means that we don't know where our faces are going to go compared to the graphic because we were kind of experimenting because before we came on live, and yeah, it makes life interesting. I'm sure there's a way we could do this that would have the picture to one side and us on the other side, but for some reason I can't make that work.
So
So,
we'll
right.
work.
I'm sorry.
We'll make it work.
Yeah,
However,
exactly.
however it comes up,
Exactly.
you won't be surprised.
Okay, we're going to do an experiment. Experiments are good. So let me see if I can. No, it doesn't want to do. Darn it all. So we created this diagram. Look at you. You're on the side and I'm kind of on the side. So yeah, we're here with the diagram between us. Jeff, the diagram has come between us.
Yeah.
Anyway, we created this a diagram looking at the different stages of business. Obviously, any business has to go through the stage of startup. You can't have a business unless you start. This is
Somewhere,
how
right?
it's pretty straightforward.
Start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So in the startup stage, that's creating the business from the ground up. You're doing research on your initial business plan, and business plans can range from, a napkin, a bar napkin, to pages and pages and pages and pages. It just
Yep.
depends on what you're creating and what's needed because there are some times when you have to use that business plan to pitch it to an investor or a vendor. There are just a lot of people that might want to know what your business plan looks like. You're establishing your product offerings and your production process. Especially if it's a product based business, you're going to need a production process. I mean, if you're making donuts, I know you have a client that's a donut maker, Jeff. Obviously, she had to figure out the process of making her donuts. You need to talk about marketing and sales. How do you find your audience? Doing networking, creating your pitch.
Yeah.
There is a lot of homework that it's involved in that way too. And then taking whatever your business comes your way to get the business off the ground. There are so many stories we could tell from that standpoint of our own businesses, of businesses of people that we know, people that we have worked with as a coach and a consultant.
Yep.
That, what business did you take in the beginning to get your business off the ground?
And the thing that's interesting about that is sometimes what you might set out to do and where you end up through that trial and error could look very different in terms of a different niche that emerges or a slightly different need than what you thought you were getting in business to do.
So
Um,
important.
yeah,
Yeah.
so much learning happens in that startup.
Yeah. To be
So,
honest with you, there's always learning going on as a business owner, but boy, the learning, and it's a steep curve, it's like very steep uphill.
yep.
Yeah. very steep uphill. So if you don't want to be somebody who's going to be learning along the way, you probably shouldn't become a business owner. Just saying.
It's very, very true. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, it is not that. That's very true. Um, then there's establishing that this is a viable concept. Is this going to go or is this not going to go? And when we were originally talking about this, Jeff, you pointed out that there's people who start out with a side hustle. That
Yeah.
this is a lot of people, if they can, some people can, some people can't, but if they can find a way to start building the business as a side hustle to test the water, that's a good idea because you still have money coming in to your family. You're not, just walking away and saying, okay, here we are. You're making sure that your family can still put food on the table, have a roof over their head, but testing the water. And then creating a small team to get the business off the ground. The team that you have in the long term is probably not going to be the team you have when you start, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's interesting about the side hustle stuff is sometimes people start using air quotes, you can't see them because of the graphic, but right? I'm like doing it. I see it on my screen, but I don't see it live.
Right.
But they start doing this because it's something that they're passionate about, and it allows them to make some extra money. And then I've even seen people that they start that way, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, this could replace my income, and it's more fun and more aligned to where my energizers are, using a word
Yes.
from the playbook.
Yes.
Why couldn't I do this full time and leave my, full time soul sucking job behind to go do this other thing that I really enjoy?
Right.
So there's a ton of stuff, there. And then, when you spring off into that growth stage, things drastically start to change then as a business owner.
Yeah, most likely, if you're working for somebody else, once you get to the growth stage, working for somebody else is going to be really hard unless you have a role in an organization where you can, and this would be beautiful if you would do it, where you can taper out. So you start out working full time for someone else and doing your business as a side hustle. And then as you move into the growth stage, you're still working for somebody else, but you've tapered back to a part-time role or a consultant role in your former position, and you are spending the majority of your time on building your business. I got to be honest with you, as somebody who's done those kinds of things and tried to have your have one foot in one camp and one foot in another, it's a really challenging thing to do. And trying to give attention to both things is very challenging. It's difficult to give as much as is needed to both of those things. Not impossible, but difficult.
Yeah.
So in the growth stage, this is once you have a viable product and you're rolling it out intentionally to bigger markets on a controlled basis, because you're staying intentionally. Look, you were doing the air quotes that we couldn't see. I'm doing the intentionally small.
Yeah.
we really. This is a learning curve for Jeff and Rhonda. We got to figure out how to get our graphic in a space where you can see both of us and our hands, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, we both talk with our hands a lot.
Yes, we do. This is true. So this controlled basis is because you're still working out your processes and systems. You're becoming more wide, and I'm going to give you a chance to talk about that in a minute, Jeff, just for the record, since I'm like driving the bus here. You're becoming more widely known. You're becoming an expert in your area. You're a go-to person. I mean, who doesn't want to be the go-to person? Because then you're setting yourself apart as why people need to come to you for the product or service that you are, that your business is created around, as opposed to going to somebody else. You are fine-tuning who your ideal customer is. And this is such an exciting thing, because remember when we said back in the startup phase that you were taking whatever business came your way. Well, in the process of taking whatever business comes your way, you're learning. I really like working with these kind of people. And oh my gosh, I am going to fire that kind of client. I do not want to work with those people anymore. I know you've never experienced that, Jeff.
No, never.
Neither
I
one
think,
of us has.
to me, that's one of each stage is kind of fun in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to learn more about who your ideal customer looks like
Yeah.
and their attributes in this stage, I think that's where the growth can really take off, not just revenue for the business, but energy for the business owner, what energizes you, and you've really kind of honed in on the things that you really enjoy
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
bring the
Well,
team
let's
around.
hope so. If you
Yeah,
haven't, it's time to do that. And
that's
we
true.
need somebody who can help you with that, don't we?
Uh,
Oh, that would be
yes,
me.
yes, I do know somebody.
Anyway, so you're nurturing your customer base because once you know who those people are, you know where to find them. You're really more freely able to develop that customer base, and you're creating and honing systems. And when you have somebody who can help you with that and help you see how creating systems and putting them in place and getting the right systems, right, Jeff? I'm going to
Yeah,
be quiet now and let you talk about this.
yeah. It's not just putting in structure just to put in structure. When you're getting to this phase and you're bringing in a team, whether that's outsourced people you've actually hired, independent contractors, whatever, this system, a lot of times people think just IT system, right? Like I need this platform that does this. This is more than just an IT platform. This is how do you work? What's your sales process look like? What's your employee onboarding? What's your customer onboarding look like? What supporting things occur? And really, what this is about is getting the things out of the owner's head and into paper so that it's repeatable. So it doesn't matter who on the team is taking on some of this, clients get a similar experience with the owner not needing to be involved in every step of that process. And that's really where this growth stage, from my experience, if you don't do this in the growth stage, you live in kind of startup chaos even longer because everyone on the team now is always coming to you as the owner for what the next step is or what should I do next or this thing happened,
Yeah.
now I do. And then what tends to happen, I have yet to meet an owner that loves all of that, losing the passion for the business, and it's no longer fun anymore for them because I'm worried about other team members, I'm worried about the clients, like the experience, and maybe I'm getting customer complaints because things aren't being delivered or the product isn't or service isn't being delivered well. And that's where a lot of this process and systems kind of ecosystem, so to speak, starts to come in on how are people are all rowing in the same direction in your business.
Oh my God, that just is heaven when you can get everybody rowing in the same direction and you've got buy-in and you've got words around it. And the other thing that if you don't, as the business owner, get that all out of your head and into processes and systems, you are putting a lid on your business.
Yeah.
Without making that happen, your business cannot grow past the point where your brain can take it. And trust me, all of us are a constraint until we release that out of our own space. Because while we are good at some things, none of us are good at everything. I don't care. You are not good at everything.
That is
It
very,
is
very true.
okay. It's really okay. Not only is it okay, but it's very freeing because once you get the big picture concepts out of your head of where you want the business to go, and you can have the members of your team start taking responsibility for different parts of the processes and systems, they know better than you do on a
Yeah.
lot of these things because you have this really elementary understanding of X, Y, and Z. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of places where my understanding of um, how a system, even our membership for the Inflection Point Hub, our membership software for that, I know it does things. Don't ask me to make it do it. Don't ask me for all the ins and outs as you have seen me on a regular basis. That's why we have people who do that for us. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll climb down off my soapbox on that one.
That's a double decker soapbox for you.
Yes, it is. So processes and systems can also be part of team building, which, just to point out, the arrows going and on the circle going around the outside, the arrows going around the circle is what we at the Inflection Point Hub between Jeff and me bring to the group. So just, in case you want to know a little bit more about our diagram, because we think it's really cool. So you have a clear brand identity at this point in time, and that is so critical because that helps people, circling back to becoming the expert in your domain, that helps people know, so why do I want to go to this particular person? What sets them apart? What's that brand and what do they deliver for me? And then building your team, which can be people that are on your payroll. It can be external experts that you tap into, or it can be outsourced folks. I mean, we have a great outsourced team that is very loyal to us and will do whatever they can to provide what we need from an administrative and graphic design, all that good fun stuff. Our virtual assistant company is extremely valuable to us in providing what we need at this stage of business. So the growth stage, that's where Jeff and I are focused with the Inflection Point Hub, because people in this stage have a lot of things that they need to get right and a lot of moving parts. Same number of moving parts as startup, but they're moving at a different pace, and there are some different things we need to focus on. But we've not found a whole lot of places where there's a community of people at this level who are supporting each other with the support of experts to come alongside you.
Yeah. Very, very true. The pace of things are different, and what gets amplified in this growth stage is very different than the startup stage.
That's well said. It is, what gets amplified is different. And being able to stay focused in this stage is sometimes hard too, because you might be reaching back into startup and you're kind of moving ahead to scale. That's really tempting, because scale is the often rapid expansion of the concept you nailed down. Keyword here is nailed down in the growth phase. Yeah. So don't get ahead of yourself. Don't go scaling when you're not ready for it yet. And Jeff is definitely the wizard about this part, because this is expanding production and systems so you can serve more customers. Well, God only knows you got to have your processes and systems pretty well nailed down when you get to this place.
And, the difference between kind of that growth and scale is when you're in the growth, you're kind of tweaking things based on where you're at in your growth. When you get to the scale, then it becomes a question of the things you put together in growth, are those scalable to the level in which you're trying to scale to? So it's almost like, some of the ad hoc stuff at that very bottom is okay. And then you've got to remove some of the ad hoc stuff in that growth. You still have some things that are ad hoc that change. And then you get into this, what I'll call somewhat steady state, right? Where things are somewhat repeatable. And then as soon as you try and put more things through that pipe, if it's a 3-inch diameter pipe and you're trying to put, a 10-inch, rainwater thing or whatever, pipe, the tube isn't going to be big enough to handle all of that. So
Right.
overflow or things coming over the top or missed expectations. And that's really the difference between that growth and scale. When you get into the scale, it's is this pipe that we built for standardized processes, and is it big enough to handle what's going to be coming, or do we need to make another investment in that?
And that investment can be infrastructure, but most importantly, it's good. Well, I guess I should let you speak to this. So, which is more important, or are they equally important and just in different ways, between infrastructure of whether that be technology, whether that be office space, production space, whatever kind of space we're talking about, or the people, the employees, and for sales and production and administrative positions that are going to actually make the production you need to have happen, the concept.
That is a good question. And where I would lean is the people side and the process of what the people do. Because if you can execute that consistently, let's just take, for example, a sales process. If you can execute a sales process consistently, that will allow you to invest in, and you can always turn on the spigot or turn it down a little bit while you're working on some of the infrastructure things. But if you don't have a good sales process and your goal is to grow sales, make this up, 5x, it's going to be pretty haphazard on how you get there, one. And two, when you get there, then it's going to be kind of this hair on fire trying to figure out operationally or production, how are you going to support it? Where if you have a good solid process that you can get to 5x based on these steps or how we go about selling this, stuff becomes, it's a support to that. You've got to have some of the sales or have enough of a sales process or other front end processes that you can get that growth. And then the second part of that becomes making the investment to make sure the pipes are big enough, whether that's technology, process, location, other things that come along. There's nothing worse than saying you're going to grow 5x, you don't have any profits, any process in place to do that or strategies in place, and you go sign a lease on a new building because you think you're going to hire 10 more people and you don't have a plan, but you've just increased your expenses without having revenue and things, come alongside that. So
that's frightening.
Yeah, it is somewhat of a chicken and an egg, though, because some people would say we should invest in making sure we have the infrastructure to handle the sales, which I could see too. But my view is you could always turn that faucet down and slow it down if you have processes. Just don't put as much stuff in the pipes, while you're working on the back end. But I've seen people do it the other way as well. And sometimes that's, from my view, sometimes that can be a little harder because you're trying to refuel a jet that's already in flight with customers.
It's an adventure, Jeff.
Yeah, with customers and things on it, right? And you're trying to keep all the balls, all the planes up in the air, still moving on time. And at the same time, you're trying to put more jet fuel into this thing, to keep it going and to be able to handle, the growth. It can be done. I think, in my view, I think it's a little bit harder to do it that way.
So that would not be the order that you would recommend somebody at the scaling stage would do things. You would recommend they say that again?
Correct. Well said. You took my very lengthy roundabout with a bunch of metaphors and right in. Yes.
And I didn't even bring up the part about, there are, and they're in the military, but there are people who refuel jets in flight, which just for the record blows my mind. But
have you ever seen a YouTube video of it?
Yes, I have. And it's
cool.
I'm trying to remember who it is, and I'm going off on a tangent. Oh, that's never happened. There's somebody I know who actually, I don't think they still do it, but they used to fly the jet refueling planes, which it just blows my mind.
It's really cool to think about the
Yeah,
precision that it takes to do that and get those aircrafts that close and the jet fuel line down to the one that's flying to dump jet fuel into it. It's pretty cool. So if you
yeah,
haven't yet, check out the YouTube video. It's
yeah. Go do a search for that and find that. So speaking of, I think that's a really good metaphor, though. I mean, didn't mean to go here, but that's a perfect metaphor. When you're at that scaling stage, if you've not got everything aligned during the growth phase, as you move into scale or scale starts taking off on you, the ability to have the precision to move everything forward, it's going to take a lot.
yeah,
It really is. And to not have somebody who can walk alongside you is going to make your life very challenging. Okay, let me rephrase this. If you're a Jeff, being able to do that part would be really good. But if you're a Rhonda and more of a visionary who is an idea person and needs other people to come alongside to help execute, that's going to be really challenging.
yeah,
So you got to, which goes back to knowing who you are in this whole process. Who do you need around you?
yeah,
Oh, kind of has to do with energizers, among other things.
yeah, absolutely. And it,
Yep.
takes a village to get this whole thing working.
That is so true, which kind of comes back to the whole thing of you're not good at everything. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, you're just not. Nor am I, for that matter. I am definitely not good at everything, but what I'm good at, I'm really good at. So, one last thing, and I'm sure there are other things that go on during the scaling stage, but you could potentially add new products when you're in the scale stage, which would mean even more excitement in the processes and systems and team building and
yeah,
strategy and visibility and everything. Put a new product in there and it makes life really interesting. Really interesting. So we move from scale to a mature business. And a mature business is a company that has met their overall objective. Oh, say that again, Rhonda. Met the overall objectives that they set out to achieve in their business. We want to be a $50 million IT consulting firm. I don't know. I just made that up. Things are running on autopilot. You got things really moving.
yeah,
Everything is aligned. The systems are operational and they can handle your current demand. Your project pipeline is full because your sales process is hitting on all cylinders. You know who your clients are. They know who you are. There is a deep trust between the two, between you and your customers and your vendors and the whole the whole infrastructure of your company. And I love it that you describe this as the business is running on autopilot. Speaking of piloting and flying, what
yeah. Look at that. I tied that together in our show notes, and I didn't even think about the refueling analogy until we were on this on it.
truly amazing. Hey, but what's really cool at this point is the business is running on autopilot with a leadership team guiding the decisions. So I think about the whole model of traction and the EOS operating system, and how when you get all the ducks in a row and everything aligned and you've got it all set up, as the CEO or the visionary, you're out there pursuing what the next thing is. You're not in the day to day. You have an integrator who's doing that part.
Yeah,
Because and here's a part that in a mature business is so critical. Speaking as one who's been in a company where it was definitely mature, seriously mature, and resting on your laurels can get really easy. So I'm just calling it like I see it. I'm not going to name any names of companies, but if you are a company that starts resting on your laurels because you have been in business for X number of years and you're on autopilot and you're the person who is either the founder or you're now the CEO and you're not looking out to what's coming next, you're going to be a former company.
Yeah.
Calling it like I see it.
Yep.
Because if you're not looking at what's coming next, and especially in today's world where the pace of change is completely accelerated, you're going to no longer be the place where people are turning because the consumer has changed, the market has changed, and you're going to find yourself going down the tube because your product offerings don't meet the needs of people today.
Yeah. And you know, I think the other thing with this graphic that's important is, you know, every business owner's definition of what mature means to them in their business is going to be different. And, you know, once you hit that mature stage, you can hit back through a growth, a scale, or a startup phase again. If you're reinventing yourself or
Yep.
a new product, you might drop down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's always, you know, I think that the thing to take away is also not once you get to this mature state and it's on autopilot, you know, so to speak, you're done. There's probably this reinvention that happens,
Yeah.
you know, every so often, depending upon the market and other things that are going on.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And at that point, and that's one of the things that is kind of fun between you and me being here because of our cross-generational perspective. We not only cross marketing and operations, but we cross generations. So we bring different perspectives from that standpoint too. Keeps us on our toes, doesn't it, Jeff?
It does. It does.
Okay, I'm going to take down this diagram. We're going to put in the LinkedIn chat a little later today a link for you to go out on the internet and get a copy of this. I was hoping to have it before we had our live stream today, but unfortunately it did not work. So we're going to have to plan B that. But I'm going to take it down for now. And oh my gosh, we can actually just be us, Jeff.
Here we go. Slide back into the middle.
Okay. Anyway, I really love the fact that we have created this diagram that helps people see the different stages of business and talk about where we are in the stages of business and how we focus on people who are in the growth stage of business.
Yeah.
Because it's a big place. It's a different kind of big place than startup is, and a different kind of place than what scale is. But it's a big place with a lot of things you need to focus on to keep your business moving forward and reach the goals that you have.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, you know. And it, like we've talked about before, it takes a community, it takes a village to kind of help get through each one of these. And really, where the hub fits in is in that growth stage. So if people are there in that growth stage and resonate with that growth stage of kind of the ladder that we had put up, you know, we invite you to inflectionpointhub.com to check out and potentially considering becoming a member, you know, and get it through that stage together.
Yep. We're building a community that's going to be great of people who are in that stage of business. And it really is so important for many of us to walk through it with other people as opposed to struggling through it by ourselves.
Yeah.
So next week, we're going to dig in more into what it looks like in these different stages of business. And I'm really looking forward to walking through that and Jeff really geeks out in this kind of stuff. So it's going to be fun.
It'll be a fun one next week. So we will catch everyone next Monday at 12:15.
Absolutely.
Time.
Have a great day.